The United States has long positioned itself as a leader on the world stage, a superpower that brings a noble mission of human rights and universal values, waving the flag of freedom and calling for justice in various international forums. In the eyes of many, America is a symbol of modernity and justice that is unmatched. However, behind this heroic narrative, a very different reality emerges. The United States has taken various actions that are not in line with the values they proclaim on the international political stage, such as military invasions, foreign policies that are full of personal interests, and support for oppressive regimes. These actions have repeatedly revealed the dark side of this country. What they often proclaim about justice, freedom, and peace often ends up being just empty slogans, far from what they actually practice. From Vietnam to Iraq, from Afghanistan to Libya, and even to Ukraine and Palestine, the role of the United States in various global conflicts often only complicates the situation, rather than resolving it with true peace. True peace seems to never have been a real priority for them. Instead, democracy, which they often proclaim, is often used as a justification to interfere in the internal affairs of other countries to protect their own strategic interests. One of the main characteristics of U.S. foreign policy is the application of a blatant double standard. On the one hand, this country loudly condemns Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which began in February 2022, as a violation of international law and the sovereignty of other countries. America, together with its NATO allies, calls for Russia's moral accountability for this conflict, calling it a threat to global peace. However, on the other hand, the United States continues to support Israel in its conflict with Palestine, despite the international community's widespread condemnation of various human rights violations against the Palestinian people, the construction of illegal settlements in disputed territories, the expulsion of Palestinians from their own land, and brutal military actions. These actions have sparked a global wave of protests. Despite this, America continues to provide significant political, financial, and military support to Israel. This policy shows that America's claims about justice and human rights are often selective, applied only when they align with their own interests. The protracted conflict between Russia and Ukraine also reveals how the United States prioritizes geopolitical and economic interests over genuine efforts to end the conflict with the military and diplomatic strength they possess. America actually has the potential to accelerate the peace process, but what happens is the opposite. America continues to support Ukraine with large amounts of financial and military aid, but this support reflects more strategic calculations than humanitarian concerns. This war has brought significant economic benefits to America, particularly in the defense industry sector. Most of the aid funds channeled to Ukraine are not directly received in cash form, but are instead used to purchase weapons and military equipment from military contractor companies in the United States. U.S. support for Ukraine, strategic interests or humanitarian concerns? U.S. financial and military support for Ukraine is more driven by political and economic calculations than a commitment to peace or human rights. This war has claimed thousands of lives and caused widespread infrastructure damage in Ukraine. U.S. double standard in foreign policy. The U.S. invasion of Afghanistan in 2001 is another example of the double standard they apply in their foreign policy. Under the guise of combating terrorism after the September 11th attacks, the U.S. launched a military operation that lasted for 2 decades. They claimed to bring stability and liberate the Afghan people from the Taliban regime, but in reality, this war brought widespread destruction to the country. Thousands of civilians were killed, critical infrastructure was destroyed, and Afghanistan's natural resources were exploited. When the U.S. finally withdrew its troops in 2021, they left the country in far from stable conditions. Protracted conflict, poverty, and insecurity continue to plague the daily lives of the Afghan people. In addition to Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya are also real examples of how American intervention often brings more harm than benefit. Asterisk 2003 Iraq invasion, destruction and protracted conflict. The 2003 invasion of Iraq on the grounds of weapons of mass destruction, which were later proven not to exist, resulted in massive destruction. The Saddam Hussein regime was successfully overthrown, but the impact was a protracted conflict that plunged Iraq into political and social chaos. U.S. involvement in Libya 2011. Similar impact. U.S. involvement in the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011 also had a similar impact. Under the pretext of supporting the Arab Spring wave, the U.S. and its NATO allies launched a military intervention that ended with Gaddafi's fall. However, after that, Libya turned into a country full of internal conflict without a stable government. America's noble rhetoric, economic and political interests. The noble rhetoric often proclaimed by the United States about democracy, human rights, and freedom often becomes a mask for economic and political agendas oriented towards national interests. U.S. foreign policy has been a subject of debate, especially regarding the double standard in responding to conflicts in various countries. Impact of U.S. intervention, destruction and chaos. The impact of U.S. intervention in various countries, such as Iraq, Libya, and Afghanistan, has left deep destruction. The image of the United States as a guardian of justice and democracy is increasingly difficult to believe by many parties. In recent decades, the United States has been a major player in various global conflicts, with claims to promote democracy, human rights, and freedom. However, reality is often different. Many U.S. interventions have ended in destruction, protracted conflict, and other negative impacts. Lessons from history. History has shown that U.S. intervention does not always bring the desired results. Examples such as Iraq, Libya, and Afghanistan show that U.S. foreign policy often prioritizes national interests over humanitarian concerns. The future of international relations. In recent years, the United States has faced significant challenges in international relations. With increasingly complex global issues, America must reconsider its foreign policy strategy to achieve more balanced and sustainable goals towards a more peaceful world. In an effort to achieve a more peaceful and stable world, it is essential for countries to work together and find more effective solutions to address conflicts and global challenges. With better cooperation and dialogue, we can create a brighter future for generations to come.